everybody, welcome back to our channel. Today we're going to be doing a lot of things, different things, so we'll be shooting several different videos, so I hope they don't overlap with each other and get confusing. We'll try to keep it as simple as we can. We are getting ready to go to Pickett Creek State Park up in Jamestown, Tennessee, and well, in about 4 days. Today is Sunday, so we are here going to put wheel bearings on this 2020 model Razor XP 1000. All 4 wheel bearings are starting to get a little flop in them. I'll get the machine jacked up here in a minute and show you what we consider a little slap, a little slop, and we don't want them to come out on the trail. So it's a whole lot easier to fix them in here in the shop ahead of time. I guess what you'd call preventative maintenance. The bearings we got that I went with, because I just realized earlier this week that the bearings were bad, I just went down to the our local Polaris dealership and picked them up. Factory bearings. They're about $55, $60 a piece. And if I'm not mistaken, it's the same bearing, because I carry a spare in our box. It's the same bearing fits this machine, fits most of your Generals, of those late model Generals. They're pretty much all the same in those 1000 XPs, the non-turbo editions. So we always keep a spare, but like I said, we're going to replace all 4 of them. We do believe in greasing them. We do have an aftermarket bearing greaser that you can insert into them, and maybe one day we'll do a video on that. However, there is some contradiction on the internet. If you get on there, some people say you put too much grease in them, it's just as bad as not having enough grease. So we try to just do a happy medium and maybe get, I don't know, maybe an extra 10 pumps of grease in them from what they come from the factory. I got about 2,300 hours or 2,300 miles on this machine. So like I said, the wheel bearings they're not out of it, but they're getting a little loose, and I want to go ahead and swap them out before they come out on the trail. And without further ado, I think we're just going to skip to where I got this thing already jacked up, and we'll go from there. Okay, so we're going to start with the back tire, and you can see this wobble. I don't know if you can hear it, but you can see it wobbles. So that's not a bad wheel bearing, but it's not a good wheel bearing. It's a wheel bearing going bad. Now it's up to you whether you want to go and replace it now ahead of time, or do you want to wait and catch it on the trail when it comes out. It gets way worse. So the thing about wheel bearings is once they start going bad, they usually go bad pretty quick. So we jacked up earlier in the week, seen it was going bad. I'm gonna go ahead and replace it. And that's that simple. I'm just gonna go ahead and replace it. Not gonna take any chances and have to do it on the trail. Alrighty, let's get started. We're gonna start by removing the wheel, and I'm gonna go ahead, I've jacked it up on the side because I'm gonna go ahead and rotate these tires. They've not been rotated since I bought them new, and they're starting to show a little bit more wear on the back. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this one, roll that wheel up there, and then when I do the front, I'll swap them out. All right. Now, I'm going to we're going to remove the brake caliper. I'll tie it up out of the way. Will you go get that rope over there, Chase? I left it lay on the ground over there. Tie the brake caliper up out of the way. Here you go. Thank you. I'm removing this guard so I can bend this brake caliper back out of the way and tie it up here to the shock spring so that it doesn't fall or kink the line or anything like that. Okay. bottom, this is a 15 millimeter for your brake calipers. 2 bolts right here. It's 15 millimeter. This bottom one's a little hard to get to. Kind of keep putting it back in and out. It hits the lower A arm before it gets all the way out. It will come out far enough for you to get the caliper off. However, it won't come out all the way.
I'm not even halfway done with yours. Hold on, time out, Dad.
So next step is we're going to take I'm going to take this Carter pin out, take the axle nut off, and then we'll pull this outer hub part off, and then we'll set it out of the way on a clean surface, and then we'll move into the top bolts for your your radius rods and get them out of the way, and then we'll move on from there. Okay, so time lapse. So this top bolt and the bottom bolt was 18 millimeter. That castle nut was a 27, I believe. Yes, 27 millimeter. Next, we're going to take off the hub, the entire hub here. Take it off. Now, we did a lineup on this razor a couple months ago, so it's got 2 small shims in here. I'm going to try to remember. I'm going to have to keep them where they go. I believe they're 2 different size. They're 2 different size shims. One's a smaller one, one's a bigger one. But that was to get us lined up because it was wearing tires out pretty bad on the back. But since we did that, it's really good at traveling down the road pretty good now. So I'm gonna remember what those shims are. Other than that, it's just 4 bolts. They are 15 millimeters, and I'll just take them out, and then we'll get the hub over to the bench and get it cleaned up. The hub back on over here on the bench. Took it to the sink, cleaned out with a little bit of brake cleaner. Just use some brake cleaner, spray it out, and clean it out real good. Get all the grease out you can. All right, and then with your snap ring tool remover, just work that back and forth a little bit. Pop that boy out. We'll spray a little more cleaner in here. Let's get some of that grit out of there. This will just help make it a little easier to come out. All right, now we'll take it over here to the vise. I'm sorry, not the vise, the press. All right, I spray a little penetrating lubricant in there just to help get this, aid in the removal of it. I'll set it up here. I'm gonna get it moving first. I've got about 1/4 inch of play there before it actually comes out of the, starts coming out of the hub itself. So I like to set it right there where it's got a good base, and then I'll get it press started out of the hub, and then I'll open this up so it can clear and come on out. we can stand to get a bigger press, but for side by sides, this thing's kind of ideal. All right, so it's going. Now let's back off of it just a little bit. And let's open this thing up a little bit. There's not much room for wiggle room here. Such a small area. I'll show you in a minute what I'm talking about. Okay, I think it'll clear there. Nope, won't clear. The shoulder on this hub is so small, you can't have anything impeding, or the bearing won't come out. All right, there's that. And that one should be good. All right, let's try again. There it comes. Now, if you zoom in on that right there, you'll see what I'm talking about. See how these plates, there's not much room between the edge of this hub and that bearing, so you gotta have the plates right on the edge. That's why I spread it out. But I'll wait till the bearing is kind of broke loose before I do that. Yeah, hang on a second. Yeah, see, there's not much room. So those plates are up there. You got to spread them out enough so it'll allow this bearing to come out. So, okay. Once again, I don't know if I said this before or not. It's a Polaris factory wheel bearing. I need to put some grease on this. I've cleaned this out again with brake cleaner off the camera, so I wouldn't get brake cleaner all over the camera. There's two grooves in there that you can take a small. There's a groove right here where the snap ring sets, and there's a groove down here basically that keeps the bearing from going all the way through. You can take a small flathead screwdriver, wrap it in a towel, and you can get up in those little grooves pretty good.
15 minutes? Looks like you're going to be more than 15 minutes.
Put a little grease in there and rub it around. Helps the bearing go in. All right, now we're ready to press the bearing in. Now, I think it's very important to keep everything clean as possible so that you can take these things out and throw them in the mud. All right, there you go. Now, these back hub bearings, you can use the old bearing that you pressed out. You can take one of the old bearings that you just pressed out and use it to help press this one back in, because if you press, you have to press on this outer edge of these bearings, otherwise you'll press this inside too far in. All right, so you put that there, and then I usually just use a plate. Oh, where's that other little piece go? That one right there. Yeah, that right there. That. And there it goes. Make sure your bearing is straight when you're pressing it. If not, you can warp the bearing and it makes it really hard to go in. It should go in pretty easy with a press. You just go until it basically bottoms out and get a little extra pump right there just to make sure it sets in there. That makes it a lot easier to get your snap ring in. just comes out. Now, that's the back one. Now, there is a difference in this front one, and I'll get to the front one in a little bit, but you will have to do a little different method on the front. We'll show you that front here in a little bit. All right, so there's the back one. Let's bring it over here and put the snap ring in. Clean the snap ring up a little bit. All right, snap ring in there. Man, these things are as big as these pliers will go. There we go. There you go. There you go. All right, that's it for that. Now, we have this Tusk aftermarket wheel bearing greaser. We're going to shoot a couple more shots of grease in there. Like I said earlier, we've heard there's theories on the internet. One says they don't come with enough grease. Or some people say they don't come with enough grease to add grease to them. Some people say if you add too much grease to them, it doesn't give room for heat dissipation. So we kind of we just shoot down the middle. We know it takes about 15 to 20 pumps of grease to get the grease to where it's full and it's coming out. So we just put about 9 in there, which is about half. Now, bearing, that greaser, there's a little seam right in there. This bearing greaser from Tusk shoots grease out this little hole right here. That hole lines right up in that right there, and it will shoot grease through that thing. If you look in there, you can see the grease now coming out that little slit. Okay, now let's go put it back on. All right, got all this cleaned off with brake cleaner, cleaned all that old grease off, all the old crud, everything, the backing plate here. This is all good and clean. I'm gonna put this on there. We're gonna mount that back up. We're gonna put it on there the correct way. Put the 4 bolts in there. These are the shims that I think I showed y'all or told y'all about earlier. That keeps this thing running true down the road. There's a small one for the bottom. Takes a bigger one for the top. And we're gonna put it together. All right, so the shims are back in, hub's back on, bolts are back in. These are 15mm bolts again, or at least that's the size socket it takes. And they are Loctited, and they are tightened down. I don't know, I'd say about 2 to 3 Ugga Duggas is what I'd call it. So now next is we will put the radius rods on, and then we'll Loctite those bolts as well, and then we'll put the hub on there, and then the brake caliper. Okay. Lower radius rod, upper radius rod on. Oh, wrong socket. Tighten them down. Couple Ugga Duggas. All right, we're ready to put the hub on. All right, putting a couple shots of grease on that right there. Keep our grease gun clean. Clean this off. Now be very careful, there is a bevel washer in here. If your bevel washer comes out, make sure that the bevel is to the outside, meaning it's crowned up. Meaning if it was a mountain, it'd be standing up right now. It needs to be taller to the outside. That allows for that nut to go in there and tighten it down. It should relatively go in there pretty, there it goes. I was gonna say pretty easy. Just wobble your axle back and forth a little bit, slide it up on there, and you're good to go. All right, got the castle nut on there. You can tighten this down. A couple ugga-duggas. And then you got 2 holes in there. Carter pin. I'm coming right back. Here you go. You got 2 holes in there. Usually if one of them don't line up, the other one will. But if neither one of them's lined up, then just hit it. Take your impact again, hit it one more time. But you want to get it tight, but not too tight, but you want to get it pretty tight. You can probably refer to Polaris' website for the exact specs on torque. But I've taken these off so many times, I just know it's a couple, 2, 3 ugga-duggas. All right, there you go. Back to time lapse. All right, I'm gonna put the brake caliper back on there. Got a little mud on it. I'm blowing the inside of the brake pads out so there's no dirt, debris in there. Sliding it back up on there. And then I'm gonna clean this old Loctite off of these bolts. Put new Loctite on there, and I'm gonna tighten it back down. 15 millimeters again. All right, so there you go. We're gonna tighten these back down. We're gonna put this shield back on there, and then we'll be ready to put the wheel back on. That one's done. I pulled the front tire off, brought it back to the back, so this one's ready to roll. No more shaky, no more wobble. All right, we're gonna move to the front. All right, so the front is pretty much the same as the back. The only difference is it's got ball joints for the A-arms versus the trailing arms and your radius rods. Had a lapse there. And then the bearing gets pressed out. It's a little different, and it takes a little different apparatus to press the bearing out on the front because it comes out the opposite direction. So I'm just going to skip the brake caliper removal because it's the same. I'm going to skip the hub removal or the outer hub removal because it's the same. And then we'll just jump in there to the how to get it off of the ball joints. And then your tie rod as well. So, okay? All right, so we got everything removed that you've already seen in the other video on the back. Now, like I said, we're going to take the tie rod off, and then we'll pull these bolts out here and pull the ball joints out from the A-arms. And then this hub will be ready to go. All right, 18-inch or 18 millimeter impact for this one. And the impact works best because that way it doesn't spin on the inside. Well, usually, well, the whole thing's spinning though. Imagine that. Okay, that tie rod was a little difficult, but I was able to get it off. I just kept using the impact on it, and I put a wrench on it to begin with to break it loose, and held the bottom of the bolt gently with a pair of vice grips like this, and broke it loose with just a regular ratchet or a regular wrench. And then once I got it down to where the vice grips is at the bottom of the threads, I used the impact and took it off the rest of the way. So anyway, all right, now we will take these loose here. Put it back on there. I'm gonna take the bottom one loose. I'm gonna take the top one loose first. And then I'll take the bottom one loose. Just top one out of the way. All right. Usually, there you go, that one's out and off. All right. Get the axle out of the way. Can you see, Chase? Do I need to pause? That's what I was saying. And that one's off. There we go. And that's off. There we go. Okay, there we go. All right. Now, I'm gonna get this cleaned up. And next time you see me again, we'll be over here getting ready to push this out. Well, no, we'll show you how to get this ring out. This snap ring's a little tricky. Tripod, maybe. This snap ring is so deep in here. If I had a snap ring. If I had different snap ring plier removers. Where's that other pair? Oh. You ready? Mm-hmm. Okay. And here it comes. There it is. It's out. You know, they make different snap ring removers. Some that squeeze them, some that spread them. This one's so far down in there, it's a little tougher. All right. So I'm showing you this one because it's a little different. If you use the bearing like we've been doing to chase those in, the bearing will get stuck in there on this one. On the front hub, I guess it goes deeper in there. The bearing itself, this old bearing, will get stuck in there. So we took, I hope this works. It's a test situation. We took an old bearing, tore it apart, tore the guts out of it, and cut a groove out of it, so that when it goes in there, hopefully we can pull it back out. If not, we'll have to press this back out and start all over again. So we're gonna try this. I'm gonna use this old bearing, old full bearing, to run him down through the hub part of the way, and then once we get down there to where it gets tight, we'll switch out to that piece there. Here, I'll need this. Once again, you want to be flat and level. Just pause it for a minute, Chase. We're gonna stop right there and switch over to this other one so that the bearing don't get stuck in there. We're gonna switch over to this funky little thing we made here and see if this one works better. That first one was a little tricky. Gotta find something. There we go, right there. And there it goes. The rest of the way, that's all she's got. That's it. She's in there. All right. Look at there. Easy squeezy. That worked great. All you gotta do, and this comes out of your hub. That's your old bearing. Like I said, strip it out, cut a chunk out of it. That way when it presses in there, it collapses a little bit so you can pull it back out. Easy squeezy. All right, now what we gotta do, put a little grease in her. Y'all have already seen that. I'm gonna use this thing again, grease it, and then I'm gonna put it back together. I'll see y'all over there. All right, so I put everything back together pretty much in reverse order. It goes back together a lot easier than it does coming apart. I mean, that pretty much, I'm gonna put this hub back together just like the rest of them did. I'm putting this outer hub back on the inner hub with the rotor and everything attached to it. I'll bolt this down, with the castle nut, and then we will put the brake rotor back on, just like we did the rest of them, and put the tire on. That pretty much will conclude it. So we'll check back in when I got all that back together. Concludes it. It's finished. It's parked back in its place. All 4 wheel bearings all the way around. And there you go. Happy trails, people. Thank you. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff.